thought a movie about Jack Black body-shaming women was a good idea? Would it have been a better idea if movie execs had left Tropic Thunder on the cutting room floor? And finally, why did anyone think a film about what women want, starring Mel Gibson, could stand the test of time? Here are the top 2000s movies that couldn't be made today. Before we jump in, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified about our new videos. Knocked Up grossed over $200 million in 2007, but today, it would be anything but a knockout, as it's laced with some pretty sexist themes. In 2008, Katherine Heigl, who starred in the film, said during an interview that it paints the women as shrews, as humorless and uptight, and it paints the men as lovable, goofy, fun-loving guys. Heigl added that it exaggerated the characters, and I had a hard time with it on some days. I'm playing such a bitch. Why is she being such a killjoy? And while Seth Rogen's character learns to grow up, Katherine Heigl's character has to chill out. Ugh, grown. Mel Gibson is anything but a beloved actor nowadays. But in the 80s and 90s and even into the early 2000s, he was considered one of Hollywood's most bankable leading men. So in 2000, when What Women Want was released, audiences anticipated another hit. It centers around a male, chauvinistic womanizer who acquires a secret ability to hear inside women's heads. Sounds creepy today, but back in 2000, people flocked to the theaters. We hate to rag on any movie starring Helen Hunt, but a film about a misogynistic player who gets to take advantage of women by knowing exactly what they are thinking is straight-up brainwashing and sounds more like a horror film. However, Bette Midler's character says to Mel Gibson's character,
"But you may just be the luckiest man on earth."
As Mel Gibson stumbles into work with this newfound ability, he hears the voices of all the women surrounding him. He rushes into his office to get away from the noise when two women follow him in, and as Gibson looks at them, he ends up hearing silence because those two ladies are apparently so daft that they have no thoughts at all. The more we think about it, Tropic Thunder shouldn't have even been given the green light in 2008. Even that year, there was controversy surrounding Robert Downey Jr.'s character, Kirk Lazarus, who he plays in blackface. While his character plays into the satirical butchering of Hollywood and their tendency to cast white actors in roles meant for persons of color, it also perpetuated the problem. Robert Downey Jr. got an Oscar nomination for this role, and then Hollywood continued to ignore their deep-rooted racism issues. With the direction we're moving in today, there's no way Tropic Thunder would rumble into theaters. In The Love Guru, Mike Myers' character is racist and offensive towards both India and Hinduism. In the film, Mike Myers plays Guru Pikta, an American-born, Indian-trained guru with a terrible Indian accent.
If I fix their marriage, I get on Oprah.
Throughout the film, the musical score completely butchers and mocks its Indian-based sitar music. Not to be outdone by racist and offensive themes, the movie even finds a way to be overly sexual. For instance, in one scene aboard a private jet, the so-called guru questions Jessica Alba's relationship status and gets a boner, as she describes a one-time hookup she had in college. He proceeds to tell Alba that she has a great rack and a
tight bell-shaped ass thicker than a Snicker.
The movie's derogatory themes were a tough sell in 2008 and certainly wouldn't be released today. Two guys pretend to be gay to get ahead in their career. And that's the plot for I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry. If you're thinking that sounds ridiculous and is a total misrepresentation of the LGBT community, you'd be correct. The legalization of same-sex marriage has been something that took so long to accomplish in the United States, and for two straight men, Adam Sandler and Kevin James, to come in and poke fun at the idea feels hurtful. Not to mention there are plenty of gay-bashing jokes sprinkled throughout the movie, with Kevin James saying offensive lines like,
"We're big-time fruits."
So now we now pronounce this movie unwatchable. In 2001, Shallow Hal centered around making ugly girls appear pretty to shallow men. Tony Robbins comes in and puts a spell on Jack Black's character Hal, an incredibly vain guy who's best friends with Jason Alexander's character Mauricio, who is even more shallow. Hal sees Gwyneth Paltrow's character, Rosemary, as a slender woman whose slim figure makes him fall instantaneously in love with her. People today heavily criticize the film, calling it fat-phobic. throughout the movie, women's looks and body size are heavily critiqued, and even up to the end of the film, Hal unnecessarily tries to lift up Rosemary, but he can't. So she ends up cradling him in her arms through the double doors and into his car. For the role, Gwyneth had to wear a fat suit, and she said that it just felt wrong, and recently admitted that she is embarrassed about playing the role. The only fact that remains true today is that Shallow Hal is in fact a shallow film. White Chicks was a 2004 box office hit and starred the funny, talented Wayans brothers. But people are now rewatching White Chicks and wondering whether it's still as funny as it once seemed. Littered with offensive jokes, sexist references, and some are saying racism, this comedy would never be made today and is anything but politically correct. The film portrays the Wayans brothers as undercover FBI agents who wear whiteface to go undercover as two white women. The whiteface has been seen as offensive, and portraying two white socialite women in the film has offended many in the transgender community. Stereotyping women as body-obsessed and sexualizing them throughout the film is used for humor, and people today wouldn't find it as humorous. Watching a skinny female in a dressing room who refers to herself as Cellulite Sally grab at the non-existent back fat and shout out, "I'm back fat Betty!" is a pretty poor characterization of women. In the year 2000, Dude, Where's My Car? Had all of us falling in love with Ashton Kutcher and Seann William Scott. But in reality, the film is littered with misogyny, racism, and homophobia. The movie begins when these two stoner guys unfortunately lose their car. They can't remember the night before, so they have to retrace their steps, get their twin sister girlfriend's anniversary gifts to make up for being complete misogynistic idiots, and eventually find their car. In the process of finding their car, they visit a strip club and criticize a trans stripper they had met the night before, as Ashton Kutcher offensively shouts, "Oh, dude, you're a dude!" and wipes his tongue down in disgust. Also in the film, Ashton Kutcher has an altercation with an Asian woman at a drive-thru Chinese food restaurant, where he and her continue to spout back and forth the words "and then" an uncomfortable amount of times.
No and then! No and then! No and then!
It's a scene that's offensive and stereotypes the Asian community. It shouldn't have been accepted then, and it certainly wouldn't be accepted today. At our number one spot, a famous actor takes advantage of a small-town girl who is smitten with his celebrity status and probably doesn't realize that she's being groomed. That should actually be the logline for Win a Date with Tad Hamilton. In today's society, male actors or men in power using their fame and status to take advantage of unsuspecting women hits a little too close to home. When Rosalie, played by Kate Bosworth, wins a date with Tad Hamilton, played by Josh Duhamel, we have our reservations. Reasons being that poor innocent Rosalie has no idea that she didn't actually win a date with Tad. In fact, it was all a ruse set up by Tad's agent to clean up Tad's image, and Rosalie was just handpicked to be the innocent, coy girl for the job. Yuck! In a time after the Me Too era, this movie makes us all feel like it's one we can lock in a time capsule and never take out again. And there you have it, the top 2000s movies that could never be made today. Is there a movie that wasn't mentioned that you think should never be greenlit again? Let us know in the comment section below. And as always, like, share, and subscribe. And be sure to check back here to find out what else needs to be ranked.